What if I told you that Ferrari's real coup in Bahrain was not against Red Bull, but inside its own garage? Because while many looked at the timetable as a simple preseason data, something much deeper was happening on the Ferrari wall. Charles Leclerc had just set the best time of the second day of testing in Bahrain, and Lewis Hamilton watched in silence as the SF-26 demonstrated that it has real speed. Not a test illusion, not an isolated attempt, real speed. But here comes the key question. Is this Leclerc's first serious warning to Hamilton before the season even starts? Today we are going to exclusively analyze what happened on that second day in Sakhir, how Ferrari validated its new technical package, what that 1 minute and 34.2 seconds really meant, and why that moment may have changed the internal dynamics of the most legendary team in Formula One. The second day of testing in Bahrain did not begin with euphoria, it began with contained expectation. Ferrari came to that day with a clear mission: to validate on the track everything they had redesigned during the winter. It was not just another day of cumulative filming. It was the first serious examination of the SF-26 under real conditions, with high temperatures, demanding asphalt, and a regulation that requires interpreting every aerodynamic detail with surgical precision. From the first laps of the morning session, something different was perceived. The car did not seem nervous at corner entry. It did not show that unpredictable rear that so often conditioned previous seasons. Charles Leclerc began his program with a relatively low load and with the updated package already installed. New floor, bodywork adjustments, and thermal management modifications that expanded the operating window of the car. They weren't hiding the potential. They were testing it directly. And then came the return. The 1 minute and 34.2 seconds wasn't a desperate attempt at the end of the day. It was early, clean, executed with confidence. Leclerc attacked the first sector with stability, rotated the car aggressively in the technical zone, and maintained solid traction exiting the slow corners. The sensation in the box was not a surprise, it was confirmation. The simulator and wind tunnel data were aligned with what the car delivered on the track. That's the kind of synchronicity that a team searches for months. But what truly cemented the message was not that fast lap. They were the later rounds. Ferrari chained long stints with a competitive and consistent pace, without sudden peaks of degradation or obvious instability. That transforms the narrative. Because a car can shine in qualifying with low fuel, but if it does not maintain balance in the long run, the project loses credibility. The SF-26 on this second day showed both sides: specific speed and structural consistency. Meanwhile, the external context amplified the effect. Some major rivals were hampered by technical problems and interrupted programs. That generated a powerful media image: Ferrari on top, others adjusting parts. But internally in Maranello, they were not celebrating a partial draw. They were analyzing correlation. And the correlation was positive. This is where the figure of Lewis Hamilton enters the scene, not as a protagonist on the track, but as a strategic observer. For a driver who is adapting to a new car philosophy, seeing that his teammate manages to extract immediate performance has two meanings. The first is peace of mind because it confirms that the material is competitive. The second is pressure because it shows that the margin of adaptation will be decisive. The SF-26 showed especially solid behavior in fast corners and a load generation that did not dramatically penalize top speed. That combination suggests Ferrari has worked on aerodynamic efficiency more than raw payload. It is an important conceptual change compared to previous cycles. The car seems less dependent on an ultra-narrow window and more flexible to variations in temperature and balance. And this is key: Bahrain is not a forgiving circuit. Degradation, side wind, and heat expose weaknesses quickly. If a car runs there for long runs, it's a structural sign. Not definitive, but significant. Having validated the pure performance of the SF-26 on the track, the second day in Bahrain began to reveal something even more delicate. The internal balance within Ferrari is far from being defined. Because when a car shows that it has real speed, the conversation changes. It is no longer a question of whether the project is competitive. It's about who is going to lead it from within. When a pilot manages to correlate simulator and track without a long adjustment period, it means that he understands the platform. Hamilton, on the other hand, is still in that process of adaptation. You're learning how the car brakes, how it rotates mid-corner, how the rear responds under sustained lateral loading. And although the Briton is one of the most complete drivers in history, modern Formula One does not allow margin when the teammate is already optimized. Ferrari internally interpreted the second day as a validation of concept. The SF-26 appears to have a wider operating window, less capricious, more stable under changing conditions. That means the car doesn't rely exclusively on an extreme driving style to perform. But it also means that the driver who first manages to exploit that window will have a structural advantage from the start of the season. In addition, there is an important strategic detail. Ferrari did not completely hide the potential in the long run. They chained competitive simulations, indicating confidence in the aerodynamic package and thermal management. That technical security reinforces the internal message that the car can fight. And when a team believes it can fight, the internal hierarchy stops being theoretical and becomes a real battle. Because if the SF-26 was only competitive over one lap, the lead could be built around Hamilton's race experience. But if the car is consistent in long pace and efficient in tire management, then the driver who best understands the platform from the start will have an immediate advantage in qualifying and strategy. The second day, therefore, was not simply a day of favorable times. It was the point at which Ferrari stopped wondering if the car worked, and started wondering who is going to push it to the limit. And here arises the great narrative tension. When the season officially begins, will we see a natural transition towards Hamilton as leader of the project? Or will this second day in Bahrain have been the moment in which Leclerc consolidated his internal position even before the first race? And then we come to the most important point of everything that happened on that second day in Bahrain: the consequence. Because when the day ends and Ferrari reviews the data, the conclusion is no longer experimental. It is structural. The SF-26 was not only fast, it was coherent. It validated the new aerodynamic package, confirmed the correlation with the simulator, and demonstrated that the technical direction chosen during the winter has a solid foundation. And when a large team confirms that their concept works, the next step is inevitable: start thinking about winning. Ferrari came out of the second day with something it didn't always have in recent seasons: technical certainty. Not absolute, because the tests never reveal exact fuel loads or real engine maps, but enough to change the internal tone of the team. The car showed stability in fast corners, efficiency on the straight, and controlled degradation on long runs. That is not an illusion of a thrown turn. That's a competitive base. And this is where the external impact comes into play. While some rivals dealt with interruptions or incomplete programs during the day, Ferrari was able to execute its plan with almost no distractions. That allowed them to collect consistent data, compare setups, and better understand the car's limits. In the preseason, that continuity is more valuable than an isolated time trial. But there is something even deeper. The second day in Bahrain did not define the final hierarchy, but it did redefine expectations. Before the test, Ferrari was an optimistic unknown. After the second day, Ferrari became a plausible threat. And when a team changes mental category within the paddock from unknown to threat, the strategic pressure increases. Now every adjustment, every evolution, and every setup decision will be aimed at maximizing a car that has already proven to have real potential. And that directly affects the internal dynamics. Because if the SF-26 maintains this wide window of performance in different conditions, the fight inside the garage will not be for survival. It will be for leading a winning project. Leclerc struck first, validated the car. He set the best time. He chained together solid runs. He sent a clear message without saying a word. Hamilton, for his part, now knows something fundamental. The material is there. The car responds. And that eliminates any margin of comfortable transition. The adaptation process will have to be accelerated, because the season does not wait and the teammate is already in tune. Ferrari didn't simply come out with the best time on the table. He came away with something much more valuable: validation. Validation of its new technical package, validation of the correlation between simulator and track, validation that the SF-26 has a solid foundation to truly compete. And when a team like Ferrari confirms that its concept works on a circuit as demanding as Sakhir, the message transcends the stopwatch. Charles Leclerc was the one who materialized that message. He set the best time, ran consistent long runs, and showed that the car responds when required. It was not an isolated return, it was a demonstration of understanding with the platform. And that, at a time of internal transition with the arrival of Lewis Hamilton, takes on a strategic dimension. Hamilton, for his part, received clear confirmation. The car has real potential. It is no longer a project under construction. It is a tool ready to be exploited. And that eliminates any room for slow adaptation. The season will demand immediate performance, because the partner has already demonstrated that speed can be extracted from the SF-26. The second day in Bahrain then leaves three certainties. First, Ferrari got the winter technical direction right. Second, the SF-26 appears more stable, broader in its performance window, and less fragile than its predecessors. Third, The internal battle will not be theoretical, it will be real from the first race. Leave me in the comments what you think about all this.